let's talk about John List, otherwise known as the Righteous Killer. It's December 7th, 1971 in Westfield, New Jersey. Westfield police were called to do a wellness check at a mansion by the residents' neighbors. The neighbors were concerned because they had not really seen any activity at the mansion for about a month, but all of the lights were on and they were burning 24/7, so the neighbors were just a little concerned. This mansion was owned by 46-year-old John List, who lived there with his wife Helen, their daughter Patricia, and their sons John Jr. and Frederick. The police discovered 4 bodies in the ballroom of the mansion, John's wife and their children. Then police find a 5th body, John's mother, Alma, on the 3rd floor in the hallway. All 5 victims were shot in the back of the head, and John List was nowhere to be found. What police did find was a letter. This letter was to the pastor of the church. And not only was there a confession in this letter, there was a motive. I wasn't earning anywhere near enough to support us. True, we could have gone bankrupt and maybe gone on welfare. Knowing the type of location that one would have to live in, plus the environment for the children, plus the effect on them, knowing they were on welfare was just more than I thought they could and should endure. Also, with Helen not going to church, I know that this would harm the children eventually in their attendance. John later stated that he had lost his job. By 1971, John had taken out a second mortgage on the house, and he had been stealing money from his mother's account in order to stay afloat. And John was concerned with his daughter Patricia because she wanted to pursue acting, and he feared that her becoming involved with show business would cause her to stray from the faith. He later said that his family was turning away from God and that they would ultimately spend eternity in hell for their sins. Police believe that everything started one morning after the children left for school. Helen was first, and then John's mother, Alma. John later stated that he had to kill his mother because doing what I did to my family would have been a tremendous shock to her at this age. After killing his wife and his mother, John goes to the bank, closes both his account and his mother's account. Then he goes to the post office and sends off a letter to the kids' school, telling the school that the kids are going to be gone for a while because they're all going to go and tend to a sick relative. Then John returned home and waited for his children to come home. Patricia was first. As she entered the kitchen, he shot her in the back of the head and then dragged her body to the ballroom. John later did the same thing to Frederick. When it came to John Jr., he had a soccer game after school, so John drove to the school, watched his son play the soccer game, drove him home, and then shot and killed him at home. John made himself dinner, cleaned up, went to bed. He woke up the next morning, turned on all the lights, turned on music, and left. He drove his car to New York and left it at the Kennedy Airport. He took a train to Denver. Police found his car at the Kennedy Airport, and the Westfield police issue a nationwide murder warrant for John List. Police was urging the public to aid them in helping to find John List, but every tip that they got, every lead that they got, led nowhere. Meanwhile, John List had changed his name to Robert Clark, and he was living a whole new life. He started in Denver. He had gotten a little job working as a fry cook at a diner. Time goes on and the police never comes. He got a job as an accountant again, joined another church, even got married again to a fellow churchgoer. And the years just went on and no one ever found him. That is, until 1988, when a show called America's Most Wanted premiered. Westfield police had approached the show in hopes of finally finding John. Finally, the show agreed to take on the case. John List was a fan of the show. He used to watch it and he used to wonder if they would ever cover his story. And they finally did in May of 1989. Immediately after the episode aired, over 200 tips came in, and one from Denver stuck out. From John's neighbors. They had seen that episode of America's Most Wanted, and they recognized John. The neighbors told the FBI that John was now going by Robert Clark, and that he had just moved to Richmond, West Virginia, with his wife. So the FBI start an investigation in Richmond, and they finally find John at his job. So it's finally over, and he's finally arrested. It was during his trial that everything came out. From him losing his job, the quote-unquote moral decay of his family, with his children wanting the things of the world, with his daughter wanting to be an actress, and them not attending church, and his wife not attending church. In John's mind, the only way to save his family from spending an eternity in hell was to kill them, to make sure that they all go to heaven before it's like too late for their souls. It was also during the trial that John had been diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder. He was noted to have seemingly displayed, quote, a psychotic lack of remorse for his crimes. John was found guilty to 5 counts of first-degree murder and was sentenced to life without parole. He later died in prison in 2008 from pneumonia. He was 82 years old. Rest in peace to Helen, John Jr., Frederick, Patricia, and Alma.